Unfortunately, numerous tests by psychologists show that the majority of people follow the lower level path most of the time, which leads to inferior decisions without their realizing it. As Carl Jung put it, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. It's even more important that decision-making be evidence-based and logical when groups of people are working together. If it's not, the process will inevitably be dominated by the most powerful rather than the most insightful participants, which is not only unfair but suboptimal. Successful organizations have cultures in which evidence-based decision-making is the norm rather than the exception. Morning, everybody. Just getting the last things set up. There we go. Okay. Hope you're all doing well and having a great start to the day. I know I certainly did. It's what we make of it, I suppose. And today we're going to be reading Principles by Dalio. I'm going to give you my commentary and thoughts. We've gotten quite far through this book already. Have a look at this. We're probably about halfway, I reckon. And I've learned a lot. I hope you have as well, and that you enjoyed it as much as I have, going through and reading and thinking about how it all works. Later on, I'll tell you how you can share your thoughts and your questions and anything else. But for now, let's get into it. We're up to 5.5. Logic, reason, and common sense are your best tools for synthesizing reality and understanding what to do about it. Here we go. Actually, very quickly, there's a lot of movement on Bigo. So let's quickly say hello to a couple of people. So Shrey Khanna, Stumble and Arise has joined. Javi Gomez Noya sent some hearts. And let's have a look. John Danziger sent some hearts. President Trump said hello. And Bella Smith joined. And Power Hoof said hey. And hey back to you. And every time I keep touching the phone, everything falls down. But here we go. Okay, so let's quit this because something else started happening. Technology fun here. Okay, I think the Zoom is still working, but it has gone down and disappeared somehow. Something else has taken its place. This is less good. Hopefully everything is working. It looks like it's still working, but I'm not going to be able to see the Zoom for a second. Let's see if we can get that fixed. Maybe I can do it by doing that, and then it should come back. No, it doesn't want to come back up onto my screen. Anyhow, let's not worry about that too much. Let's continue. Be wary of relying on anything else. Unfortunately, numerous tests by psychologists show that the majority of people follow the lower level path most of the time, which leads to inferior decisions without their realizing it. As Carl Jung put it, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. It's even more important that decision-making be evidence-based and logical when groups of people are working together. If it's not, the process will inevitably be dominated by the most powerful rather than the most insightful participants, which is not only unfair but suboptimal. Successful organizations have cultures in which evidence-based decision-making is the norm rather than the exception. And I will definitely agree with that, because there are certainly times in which a dominant person, and I've seen it in many, many businesses, where the business owner says, I am the business owner, I make the decisions, and that's the end of that. Even though they have very competent people who can absolutely give them some really amazing ideas and help them to implement something which is going to be better than what they may have thought of themselves. But they continue to think that because they are the business owner, they are the only ones that are entitled to be able to make the decision. Okay, 5.6. Make your decisions as expected value calculations. Think of every decision as a bet with a probability and a reward for being right, and a probability and a penalty for being wrong. Normally, a winning decision is one with a positive expected value, meaning that the reward times its probability of occurring is greater than the penalty times its probability of occurring, with the best decision being the one with the highest expected value. Let's say the reward for being right is $100 and its probability is 60%. Well, the penalty for being wrong is also $100. If you multiply the reward by the probability of being right, you get $60. And if you multiply the penalty by the probability of being wrong, 40%, you get $40. If you subtract the penalty from the reward, the difference is the expected value, which in this case is positive $20. Once you understand expected value, you also understand that it's not always best to bet on what's most probable. For example, suppose something that has only a 1 in 5 chance, 20% of succeeding will return 10 times. So for example, $1,000. The amount that it will cost you if it fails, $100, its expected value is positive $120. So it's probably a smart decision, even though the odds are against you, as long as you can also cover the loss. Play these probabilities over and over again, and they will surely give you winning results over time. Though we mostly don't carry out these calculations explicitly, we constantly make them intuitively. For example, when you decide to take an umbrella to the store, even though there's just a 40% chance of rain, or you check your phone to confirm the direction somewhere, even though you're almost certain you know the way, you're making expected value calculations. Sometimes it's smart to take a chance even when the odds are overwhelmingly against you if the cost of being wrong is negligible, relative to the reward that comes with the slim chance of being right. As the saying goes, it never hurts to ask. This principle made a big difference in my own life. Years ago, when I was just starting my family, I saw a house that was perfect for us in every way. The problem was that it wasn't on the market, and everyone I asked told me the owner wasn't interested in selling. To make matters worse, I was pretty sure I would be turned down for an adequate mortgage. But I figured that it wouldn't cost me anything to call the owner to see if we could work something out. As it turned out, not only was he willing to sell, he was willing to give me a loan. The same principle applies when the downside is terrible. For example, even if the probability of your having cancer is low, it might pay to get yourself tested when you have a symptom just to make sure. To help you make expected value calculations well, here are a few ideas and things to keep in mind. So very quickly, before we move on to the next point of that section, there is a famous story of Warren Buffett going golfing, and somebody offers him a lot of money if he wins. And the interesting thing is that even though there is a very good chance that he's going to be able to make it, he knows that there's also a chance that he will lose money. Now, Warren Buffett does things a little bit differently to everybody else. He looks at this, let's have a look, at the expected value calculation as something that he is very, very conservative on. So somebody offered him some money, and there was a chance that he was going to win, and he said no. And then they increased the odds for him. They said, if you make it, we're going to pay you 10 times, or I think it was 100 times as much. And he still said no, because he said that there was a chance that he was going to lose money. So he very risk averse and was not willing to he's not very much of a betting man from what I have read with regards to his history. So you want to be able to understand what the outcome is likely to be, what the chances are of you getting a positive outcome or a negative outcome. It's very, very good and very important to be able to understand. Very often we just make decisions on the fly. We don't really consider how much it might cost us or how much we could make from it. We just make a decision based on our emotions as opposed to actually doing a calculation. It is much better when we're making decisions, especially financial ones, that we actually sit down and we think about and we calculate how much something will cost us or how much we could potentially make. A really good example of this is my mentor will always get me to write down projects that I'm working on. And I've reduced the number of projects that I was working on because I used to work on quite a few. And he encouraged me to work on quite a few, actually. Excuse me. However, he would always get me to write down all of my projects. And then in separate columns next to it, he would get me to write how much time I would need to put into that project, how much money the project was likely to make. And then I added an extra column later on, how much it got me closer to my goals, and another one for how much I enjoyed that task. And then I would write all of these things down. And I could see which ones would bring me money, but it would take a long time to actually get there, and that I wasn't enjoying. I could see which ones wouldn't take much time, wouldn't make me that much money, but would make me more over the same amount of time. So let's say, for example, I have one project and it will take me 6 months, and it will make me, let's say, $12,000. But I have another one, and I can make 1,000 on it or I can make 2,000 on it in the first month. So they come out to about the same. But imagine if I could make 4,000 from one of them per month, and that one might be a little bit lower on the scale of enjoyability, but it would have a bigger payoff than the one that I am working on for the longer term. That's only going to bring me 12,000 in 6 months. So we can use tools like this in order to be able to better quantify our lives and the decisions that we make. Very often we just do it with logic because we shy away a bit from maths as humans for some reason. So a bit of maths is good. I really find that I still use my maths from high school, even though most people say that they don't. I'm working on a spreadsheet at the moment, doing some calculations, and I tend to find that I am always using my algebra and different other maths because I look at life from different angles in order to be able to make those better decisions, just like Ray Dalio is talking about here when he talks about the expected value calculations. Okay, let's continue. So to help you make expected value calculations well, remember that A, raising the probability of being right is valuable no matter what your probability of being right already is. Another thing that I would say is that it's really important to make sure that you are going to have a potential positive outcome. A lot of people will bet on things, even though the chance of them actually winning are very, very low. I used to take my cash flow club to the casino, and I would show them the odds of winning each game. And then we talk about the difference between gambling, where everything's really being stacked against you. And then I talk about investing and how you have certain information and different things that you have control over, so that it is a much more I suppose it's a strategy that you can use in order to be able to make sure that you can actually succeed. So casino, you have no hope of succeeding, whereas when it comes to investing, you do, because there is certain information and different other things that you have access to that allow you to be able to understand what is going on and actually get a positive result out of it. And yet most people would prefer to put their money into something which they have no control over, and and the same applies to the investing, by the way. So if you do investing without really paying attention, without really doing any research or due diligence or anything else, then you are essentially gambling, and you also have a net zero outcome, or a net loss outcome. But the idea being that if you have a look at gambling and investing, there is a difference because you have access to information. You just need to make sure that you use that information so that you can actually get a expected value out of it, as opposed to a net loss out of it. I often observe people making decisions if their odds of being right are greater than 50%. What they fail to see is how much better off they'd be if they raised their chances even more. You can almost always improve your odds of being right by doing things that will give you more information. The expected value gain from raising the probability of being right from 51 to 85%, for example, 34 percentage points, is 17 times more than raising the odds of being right from 49%, which is probably wrong, to 51%, which is only a little more likely to be right. Think of the probability as a measure of how often you'd likely to be wrong. Raising the probability of being right by 34 percentage points means that a third of your bets will switch from losses to wins. That's why it pays to stress test your thinking, even when you're pretty sure you're right. And this is why sometimes the process of doing something for me takes a bit longer. As I'm working on something, I am always looking for the smarter and more efficient way of doing things. And so I will have a look at, is it really what it's cracked up to be? Can I use some mathematics to test out what I want to do? I used to sit for hours when I was at university, and even still today, I do the same thing. So when I'm working on a business, I will write down Okay, let's say that I get this many people. Will I be profitable at that number of people? What happens if this happens? What happens if I change the amount of people that come from the marketing? What happens if this marketing I pay a certain amount for and then it bombs? I used to do calculations all the time to see what potential outcomes there were so that I could make the decisions based on getting the things to fit the way that I wanted them to, so that I'd know where the pitfalls were and where the opportunities lay. So absolutely, a lot of people will say that mathematics is not very useful in real life. If you want to be successful, if you want to make really good decisions, you want to make sure that you are using the mathematics that you learned back in high school. Part B, knowing when not to bet is as important as knowing what bets are probably worth taking. You can significantly improve your track record if you only make the bets that you are most confident will pay off. And this brings us back to Warren Buffett, who would almost never bet unless he was absolutely certain. It was the same as with my mother at home. My mother would bet from time to time with me, and I would always lose. And the reason for that was because she would only bet when she was absolutely 110% certain that she was correct. If she had any doubt in her mind, she would not bet at all for any reason. Whereas when I was a kid, I would do it the exact opposite. I would think that I might know it, and I thought the odds of 50-50 were good enough for me, and I would bet. My mother still, to this day, will not bet unless she is absolutely certain. And part C, the best choices are the ones that have more pros than cons, not those that don't have any cons at all. There is nothing which is perfect, so you're not going to find anything which is not going to have any little hooks or any kind of issues with it. So you want to watch out for people who argue against something whenever they can find something, anything wrong with it, without properly weighing all the pluses and minuses. Such people tend to be poor decision makers. Okay, we'll leave it at that for today. We are up to 5.7. Tomorrow we're going to be reading Prioritizing by Weighing the Value of Additional Information Against the Cost of Not Deciding. But hopefully you got some good things out of today's reading. If anything, I hope that you reevaluate your look, your perspective on high school mathematics. I use it all the time in lots of different things. I don't get through things that quickly always. I'm always looking at doing quite a few calculations and quantifying a lot of things before I move forward on them. I am, according to my profile, a quick starter, but I am a quick starter who then does a lot of calculations before I move on. So very, very interesting, and something that I would absolutely highly recommend. So hopefully you got a lot from that, and I'm very curious to know what it is that you are going to implement from all of that, based on the fact that, yes, some of you may have been joining for quite a while, and hopefully you've been implementing something each and every single time. I know I certainly do. Every time I learn something new, I implement it immediately in order to be able to lock it into the brain, and it really, really assists with the long-term memory of the things that you've been reading and doing. Now, if you'd like to get in touch, and if you'd like to ask questions, or if you're not certain of something, feel free to get in touch. You can reach out on Instagram, business_team_6_official, and I would love to get to know you. I see so many amazing people. LIRSSSSS has joined us, and Sigfox, and Julian T, and Benjamin, and lots of other amazing people. Bilge Ebri sent some hearts, and Oppo sent some hearts, and a young god is still here. Lots of great people. So really amazing to have you all. Would love to get to know you more and see what makes you tick and what you've been getting from Ray Dalio principles. Hopefully you've been learning a lot, and I see many of you returning again and again. So I'm assuming that you do. Also, let us know if you have any questions. We'll publish them up on the YouTube channel with the answer that I come up with for you. So feel free to do that. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And you can also watch the recording. So this is being recorded, and if you missed the beginning of the book, you can go back and watch from the beginning. We also have recordings for Rich Dad Poor Dad and the Art of Thinking Clearly. So you can find us at the Passive Cash Flow Club on YouTube. Also, let us know if you're interested in our events. We've got networking events, we've got game nights, we've got simulator nights, we've got educational nights, networking nights, all sorts of really exciting things. Let us know, and we'll get you the details so that you can come and join us. We have online events and offline events if you are here in Sydney. And I am looking forward to getting to know more of you and actually meeting some of you in a real life. It's always fun to meet somebody that you only know via your phone or via the internet in that sense. In real life, lots and lots of fun. So look forward to meeting more of you. Keep those questions coming. We've been answering lots of questions. They are being put up on YouTube every week, I think it is. And yes, make sure you subscribe, because then you'll be notified when your question gets answered. Even if you don't, make sure you subscribe, because it could be a question that's relevant to you, that helps you solve one of your challenges and helps you make some more profits with your investing. So I'm going to leave it at that. It's been great seeing you today. I really appreciate you all joining. It is always amazing. And I really love having you all here. Remember to make the switch to unlock your rich, because there is a shortcut and a more efficient way to doing absolutely everything. If you keep doing everything in the same way, you're going to get the same results. If you make some changes, sometimes it's going to go a little bit less and sometimes a little bit more. Mladen asked me to check the Zoom chat, which I cannot do for some reason. I pressed a button and the Zoom has gone down. I press on Zoom and it just will not pop back up. I don't know what happened there. It is a little bit funny. And it will show up when I hover over it, but it will not reopen on the main screen. So I cannot see the Zoom chat, but feel free to put it into the bigger if you can copy and paste it, or if you can look at it and paste it. I am really struggling, or you can send it to me as a message personally. I just cannot, for some reason. It started uploading something and it will not let me back into the Zoom, which is quite strange and annoying. Anyhow, great to have you all. And yes, remember to make the switch to unlock your rich. I will see you all tomorrow. I am going to stop the Zoom recording, and then I'll quickly go and say hello to a couple of you on Bigo.